At the beginning of a new year, I stay at the hospital to take care of my mother-in-law on my own. My wife, Yelena Lipton, on the other hand, is on a vacation with her first love, Phillip Warren, in a tropical island overseas. Funnily enough, I'm the last one who finds out about her impending marriage with Phillip. When my mother-in-law hears about the news, her condition deteriorates to the point she gets sent into the treatment room immediately. I have to call Yelena over a dozen times for her to finally pick up the call. Do you have a death wish or something? Why did you bombard me with calls? I'm in the middle of something right now, so leave me alone. After that, Yelena ends the call. Since then, I keep failing to get in contact with her. During that time, my mother-in-law has passed away from the treatment failure. When I'm done organizing the funeral, I send Yelena a divorce agreement right away. Have you gone nuts? It's just an announcement to cheer Phillip up. Are you seriously going to file a divorce from me? After hearing Yelena's accusations, I reply calmly, Mom's dead. I've already dealt with everything concerning her passing. You should come back and visit her grave. I distinctly heard Yelena Lipton gasp on the other end of the phone, followed by several seconds of silence. Mom's gone? How could that be? This is just too sudden. I didn't mean to be absent. I'll buy tickets for the soonest flight possible and head back right away. Wait for me to come back, okay? No need. From now on, you and I should go our separate ways. There's no need for us to be tied together anymore. This is exactly what you want, isn't it? As I stared at the picture of Melinda Smith, my mother-in-law, I shook my head with a bitter smile. We had failed to give Melinda a great life before she died. And even after her death, Yelena and I were disturbing her peace with our conflict. She had worked hard to ensure my marriage with Yelena was blissful, only for all her efforts to be in vain. I could still remember the last words she had said to me. She had said that the Lipton family had done wrong by me and that I shouldn't force myself to endure any longer. She said that I should just divorce Yelena. All I could do now was fulfill her dying wish, which just so happened to be an emotional burden of mine as well. Carter Chance, are you crazy? Do you find it fun to always be spouting such words? We've been married for so many years already, yet you don't have even this basic level of trust in me? I've already told you that I only agreed to marry Phillip to make him happy. He has late-stage cancer and doesn't have long left to live. How could you be jealous of a dying man? It was the same old explanation she had given me multiple times before, and I was sick of it. She kept claiming it was all fake, yet anyone who had a brain could tell that she was lying. In fact, she couldn't even be bothered to think of a new excuse to appease me. Phillip Warren had been in the late stages of cancer for close to a year now, yet he was still flying all over the world with her and having fun. From what I could tell, he had no problem enjoying himself, be it with the cuisine or other activities. His body seemed even healthier and better than mine. What a medical marvel indeed. You can say whatever you want. I don't care anymore. I've already sent you the divorce agreement. It's already signed on my end, so hurry up and sign it. I hope that the next time we meet will be at the courthouse. There's no need for us to have any other interaction before that. At that moment, Phillip's voice came over the line, sounding strong and full of life. He sounded nothing like a man on the brink of death. Lena, remember to put on that swimsuit I picked out for you later when we go have a dip in the hot springs. Yelena agreed as though it were the most natural thing in the world. Then, she tossed out a few half-hearted words before swiftly hanging up. Don't be so inconsiderate and immature. I'll explain everything to you later. Besides, Phillip is a sick man, so what's wrong with letting him have his way? As for the divorce, you can forget about it because I'll never agree to it. We'll talk about the rest once I return. The beep of the call ending also signified the end of our 7-year marriage. The divorce is definitely happening, and I won't foolishly wait for you to come back to me either. Yelena didn't hear this last sentence. I had said it for myself. Her lack of boundaries and restraint when she was with Phillip had thoroughly worn away at the love I had held for her. Besides that, the countless times she had neglected or been indifferent to me proved that she had long since stopped loving me. Having completely let go of this relationship, I packed up my things and left, not feeling even a shred of reluctance. On the contrary, it was like a burden had been lifted from my shoulders. A breeze brushed over me, carrying with it the taste of freedom. It was time I started a new life. I went to work as usual. It was getting close to the time period when promotions were given, so I had been working particularly hard the past few days. I made sure to be the first to arrive at the company and the last to leave. As a result, not only was my performance leagues ahead of everyone else, but I also succeeded in snagging the biggest collaboration project of the season. That day, the Human Resources Department informed me that I would be promoted. All my colleagues flocked to me to express their early congratulations. Just as I was basking in my achievement, Yelena suddenly called me. Where the hell have you gone? Why isn't there anything of yours left in the house? Even if you're throwing a tantrum, there should still be a limit. I'm utterly exhausted after the past few days, and now that I've returned, I still have to deal with a man-child like you. Could you stop acting up and just cut me some slack? Today was a joyous day, and I didn't want her to affect my mood. Besides, it wasn't like this was the first time I'd had a taste of her self-centered arrogance. We're divorcing, so isn't it natural that I have to move out? This is just perfect for Phillip, isn't it? I've already cleared out my space so he can move right in without any delays. I assume you've already signed the divorce agreement? In that case, see you later in the afternoon at the courthouse. Oh right. You might as well bring Phillip along too. The city hall is right next to the courthouse, so it's quite convenient for you too. You can just go ahead and get married right there and then. Upon hearing that, Yelena exploded with rage. After all, in all our years of marriage, I had never once talked back to her. Back when we were still in love with each other, I could accept every part of her. Love-struck as I was, her arrogant and conceited behavior had seemed adorable to me. However, she took advantage of my love and grew increasingly selfish and petty, to the point that she stopped loving me. Now that things had developed to this point, I certainly wouldn't endure her behavior in silence and let her have her way anymore. Carter Chance, who the hell agreed to divorce you? Who gave you permission to move out? I didn't sign the divorce agreement. Nor will I go to the courthouse to divorce you. You can just give up right now. You knew about Phillip long before this, so what's with the extreme reaction this time? Especially since you clearly know there's no way I'm marrying him. A marriage was supposed to be a union between two people, so the moment a third person appeared, it was over. This was particularly true for our case, as Phillip had been around for a long while now, and things should have ended between us long ago. However, perhaps it was due to Melinda's illness, or perhaps it was my own indignant reluctance. But I had allowed this to drag on for close to a year before finally making up my mind. Melinda's last words to me had thoroughly enlightened me, so I definitely wouldn't be swayed now. You know better than anyone else whether you still love me or not. There's no need to cling on to what doesn't exist anymore. We will be getting a divorce, and that's an irrefutable fact. Even if you don't sign the papers, I'll just take this case to court. You've left behind way too much evidence, so I'll definitely win the case. If you don't want things to turn too ugly, then just quickly sign the papers. That would be the best outcome for me, you and Phillip. The crash of shattering glass rang in my ear as she threw something to the floor. I understood her too well, so I knew that after she realized she wouldn't be able to change what was inevitable, her shame and frustration would turn into anger. Her next step would be to threaten me, but my heart had died along with Melinda. There was nothing she could hold over my head. Fine, you can have your way. Let's divorce. However, since we're divorced and you've already moved your things out of my house, shouldn't you also be leaving my family's company? Surely, you'll want to cut ties cleanly, right? So there's no way you'll insist on staying. I was instantly rendered speechless, not expecting her to resort to this trick. I had joined Lipton Corporation immediately after graduating and slowly worked my way up on my own. By the time Yelena and I started dating, I was already a department manager. Even after we married, my every promotion had been earned through hard work and dedication, with my achievements speaking for themselves. Successful business negotiations had brought me to the position of general manager, not my marriage to Yelena. Today, I had learned that I was to be promoted to the position of CEO, only for her to suddenly threaten me with it. Yelena Lipton, the company doesn't belong to you alone. You need the entire board of directors to discuss and agree to firing me before you can do it. Do you think you're scaring me with that threat? Everyone is a witness to all that I've contributed to the company all these years, so don't think you can take me down that easily. I was confident I could stay on in the company. After all, I'd accumulated quite a substantial amount of resources and contacts over the years, and those weren't connections that Lipton Corporation would readily give up. I was nothing like Phillip. He was a good-for-nothing who only knew how to seduce women. I had clawed my way up from the bottom with my own hands, so I was naturally assured of my position. It's all right. If you refuse to leave, then be a good dog and continue working for my family's company. In fact, you can stay in the position of general manager till you die. I heard that you were just about to be promoted. Well, don't you worry. With me around, there's no way you'll succeed. Before I could retort, Yelena had already ended the call. My mind buzzed with thoughts. The position of CEO had been empty for a long time, so it was prudent that someone be appointed as soon as possible. I was the best option among the company staff, bar none, as no one else had the right to compete with me, be it in performance or capability. Everyone, please stop what you're doing for a moment. It's time to announce the new CEO. My colleagues turned to wink at me, while the HR department staff stealthily gestured for me to get ready. Sure enough, the saying that only real capability could carry one forward was true. Straightening my clothes, I took a step forward. Let us all congratulate this candidate for getting the position, for it is well earned indeed. That person is none other than Carr. It's Phillip Warren. Yelena suddenly appeared and swiftly interrupted the announcement of my promotion by parachuting in Phillip. Immediately, the atmosphere turned tense. The employees shuffled off awkwardly, none daring to say a word. Yelena and Phillip's relationship had long since become common knowledge in the company. After all, they hadn't exactly been subtle about it. Be it out on the streets or in the company, they would always be holding hands. Anyone unaware of the truth would have thought they were a married couple. Despite everyone being aware of it, no one dared to stay back and gossip about it, especially since it was a private matter of their superiors that had been publicly exposed. Boss. Ms. Lipton, no one told me about the CEO candidate changing. This wasn't filed with the HR department in advance either. So, you do know that I'm the boss? This company belongs to my family, so what I say goes. Why then, should I need to file anything? Take Phillip and get him familiarized with our internal systems. Come to me if there are any problems. The HR department representative kept shooting furtive glances at me, clearly wanting to know what was happening, and also asking me for help. I sighed and gestured for him to leave. I would deal with this myself. Did you discuss parachuting Phillip in with the board of directors first? Your action is useless if they don't agree to it. I'm just bringing in someone from the outside. With how close I am with them, why wouldn't they agree? With that said, Yelena showed me her chat history with the board of directors, which indeed showed that they had unanimously agreed to her bringing in Phillip. They had even mentioned me, saying that I was getting too much attention and needed to have my edge toned down for a while. After Yelena told them that we were divorced, they even outright stated that since I wasn't family anymore, there was no way they could allow me to take such an important position. I couldn't believe my eyes. The company I had worked myself to the bone for so many years turned out to be rotten to its core. My past hard work had been for nothing. At that moment, I lost all hope, not just in Yelena, but also in Lipton Corporation. Carter, if you were to beg me now to rescind the divorce, I might just consider helping you get promoted in the future. I'm truly heartbroken that your mom has passed away. But that still doesn't give you the right to blame everything on me. You have to be more considerate of me too, you know? Apologize to me now, then promise to be good and listen to whatever I say in the future. I guarantee that your career will soar. That way, your mom won't have lingering regrets, right? I flung her hand away before tossing the divorce agreement and my resignation letter right in her face. Yelena and Lipton Corporation, they were all rotten to the core. I couldn't wait to get as far away from them as possible. Shut up. Hurry up and sign the papers, then you and I can finally part ways and never see each other again. I want nothing to do with you from here on out. Utterly enraged, Yelena's face flushed a bright red. She signed the 2 documents, then flung them right back at me. Carter, you'll definitely regret this one day. I'll be waiting for the day you come begging me on your knees. Finally, I was divorced. I was free. A calm like never before surged through me. I ignored her harsh words and took the documents, turning to leave. However, right before I departed, I remembered that I had one more thing to say to her. Yelena, don't tell me that you still don't know. The one who died was your mom, not mine. The silence that followed my words was not the clean silence of a paused conversation. It was the sudden, deadening quiet of a room where the air had been violently sucked out. Yelena's hand, which had been raised to point a manicured finger at my chest, froze in midair. Her lipstick-red lips remained parted, a faint trembling twitch appearing at the corner of her mouth. What did you just say? She whispered. Your mother, Melinda Smith, passed away on Tuesday at 4:12 a.m., I said, my voice flat, dry, and entirely devoid of anger. While you were at the hot springs in Bali, I was signing the cremation authorization. I've already settled the funeral costs. The deed to her plot is in the blue folder on your desk. You're lying, she said, her voice rising in a sudden, shrill panic as she stepped back, her heels clicking sharply on the linoleum. You're lying to get back at me because of the promotion. My mother had a mild heart condition. The doctor said she just needed rest. She had a massive coronary occlusion, Yelena, I said. And she spent her final 3 hours calling your phone. I have the log from the nurse's station. You declined the call 12 times because Phillip needed to sleep without distractions. I didn't wait for her to respond. I picked up my box of personal belongings, my coffee mug, my desk calendar, and the small wooden frame holding the only photograph of Melinda and me, and walked out of the office. As I reached the elevator, I heard a sharp, stifled cry from the corridor behind me. Yelena was on her knees in the middle of the carpet, her fingers clawing at the blue folder I had left on her desk, her face turning an ashen, pasty gray as she read the death certificate. Beside her, Phillip stood with his hands in his pockets, his handsome face filled with a sudden, nervous discomfort. He didn't reach down to comfort her. He was looking at his watch, wondering if the hotel reservation he had made for their celebration dinner was still active. The departure of a general manager who had run 70% of a company's operations is not a quiet event. It is a slow, grinding mechanical failure that begins the moment the key is removed from the ignition. For the first 2 weeks, Yelena and the board of directors tried to pretend nothing had changed. Phillip was officially installed in the CEO's office. He had his desk replaced with a custom-built mahogany table, ordered a state-of-the-art espresso machine, and spent his first 3 days choosing the color of his corporate stationery. But by the third week, the reality of the business began to assert itself. Mr. Warren, the lead accountant, Mr. Gable, said during the Monday morning briefing, his face pale as he laid a stack of red-inked spreadsheets on the desk. The Horizon Group has officially terminated our joint venture contract. They said the agreement was signed personally with Carter Chance, and since he is no longer with the firm, they are exercising their keyman termination clause. Phillip frowned, taking a sip of his macchiato. Keyman? That's ridiculous. It's a corporate contract. Tell them we'll sue for breach. We can't, Mr. Gable said, his voice trembling slightly. The contract was drafted by Carter himself. He included a provision that if he was no longer the primary administrator, the partnership would dissolve with no liability to either side. And they've already signed a new agreement with the Vance Group. The Vance Group? Yelena's voice came from the doorway, sharp and tight. She had spent the last 2 weeks under her desk, her eyes red, her face sallow. Hadn't visited her mother's grave once, too terrified of what she would see on the stone. That's our biggest competitor. Carter went to Vance. He didn't go to them, Ms. Lipton, Gable said quietly. They went to him. The chairman of Vance Group personally offered him the position of managing director of their entire East Coast division. He started last Thursday. Yelena sat down heavily on the leather sofa, her fingers digging into her Chanel handbag. He didn't even wait for the divorce to clear, she whispered. We have more urgent problems, Lena, Phillip said, his tone turning sharp and impatient. The bank has just called in our secondary line of credit. They said, our debt-to-equity ratio is too high now that the Horizon contract has been dissolved. If we don't find $12 million by Friday, we're going to be flagged for technical default. $12 million. Yelena looked at him, her eyes wide. But you said your family's trust would be cleared by now. You said you'd have the funds to invest. Phillip averted his eyes, his fingers nervously playing with his gold watch. The trustees are being difficult. Because of my medical history, they're demanding a full physical examination before they release the capital. Yelena stared at him, a cold, sharp realization beginning to settle in her chest. For a year, she had lived in a world where Phillip was the tragic, dying hero, a man who deserved every sacrifice because his time was short. She had ignored her mother's illness, ignored her husband's dedication, and ignored her own business to keep him happy. Now she was looking at a man who was perfectly healthy, whose cancer seemed to disappear whenever there was a party, but whose trust fund was permanently out of reach. My new office on the 54th floor of the Vance Tower looked out over the entire harbor. The glass was clean, the light from the morning sun filling the room with a warm golden glow. On my desk sat a single cup of black coffee and a leather folder containing the first quarter expansion reports for the Vance Horizon merger. Mr. Chance, my secretary, an efficient young woman named Clara, said as she knocked on the door. The legal team has just received the court-certified copy of your divorce decree. It has been signed by the judge. I didn't stop my pen. I signed the bottom of the regional report and set it in the outbox. Thank you, Clara. Send a copy to our HR department so they can update the insurance files. And, Mr. Chance, she hesitated, looking at her tablet. There is a woman in the lobby. She doesn't have an appointment, but she's been there since 8 a.m. She says she says her name is Yelena Lipton. I looked at the clock. It was 11:30 a.m. Tell her I have a lunch meeting with the Vance board in 15 minutes. I said, if she wants to speak to me, she can speak to my legal representative. She looks very unwell, sir, Clara said quietly. She's carrying a white marble urn. My hand holding the coffee cup paused. I looked out the window at the harbor. The water was gray, the cold winter wind white capping the waves. Show her in, Clara, I said. But give us exactly 5 minutes. Yelena walked into the office with slow, heavy steps. She looked older. The sharp, arrogant posture she had maintained for 7 years had collapsed, her shoulders hunched under her black wool coat. Her hair, usually styled with meticulous care, was pinned back with a simple plastic clip. In her hands she clutched a small, polished white marble urn, Melinda's ashes. Carter, she said, her voice dry and raspy. I stood behind my desk, my hands tucked into my pockets. I didn't offer her a chair. I didn't offer her water. You should have buried her, Yelena, I said, my voice flat. Your mother wanted to be placed beside her father in the old cemetery. She told me that 3 days before she died. I wanted to, Yelena sobbed, her fingers scratching at the cold stone of the urn. But the bank has frozen our family assets, Carter. Lipton Corporation. We're in receivership. They've locked us out of the offices. I Couldn't even pay the cemetery fee. She took a step closer to my desk, her eyes filled with a desperate, pathetic hope that made my stomach turn. Carter, please. I'm sorry. I was wrong about Phillip. His medical records were forged. He never had cancer. He was just using my family's money to pay off his gambling debts in Macau. I've already kicked him out. I've filed a police report. She reached out, trying to place the urn on my desk, as if invoking the specter of the woman who had once loved us both. Mom loved you, Carter. You know that. She always said you were the best thing that ever happened to our family. For her sake, help me. Just sign the joint venture guarantee. If the Vance Group backs us, the banks will release our loans. I looked at the white marble urn. I remembered the cold hospital room. I remembered the sound of the heart monitor flatlining while the rain beat against the window. I remembered Melinda's cold hand in mine, her fingers pressing against my palm with her last, fading strength. Don't be a fool, Carter, she had whispered, her lips blue from the oxygen deprivation. My daughter is her father's child. She has no heart. Sign the papers. Leave her. Don't let her drag you into the dirt with her. She had given me her blessing to divorce her own daughter. No, Yelena, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper that carried more weight than any shout. Carter, please, she cried, dropping to her knees on the polished floor, her forehead pressing against the cold mahogany of my desk as she wept. I have nothing left. The house. They're repossessing the house tomorrow. I have nowhere to go. Your mother left a second will, Yelena, I said, pulling a single sheet of paper from my drawer. She had it drafted by her personal lawyer 3 months ago. She left the family's old apartment in the East District to me. She knew you would ruin Lipton Corporation, and she wanted to make sure I had something to compensate for the 7 years I wasted on you. I signed the bottom of the transfer deed and slid it across the desk, right next to her trembling fingers. I've just signed the apartment back to you, I said. It's 40 square meters. It has no view, but the heating works, and the rent is paid for the next year. You won't be on the street. She looked at the paper, her tears dripping onto the white sheet, her face a perfect ruined mask of defeat. And us, she whispered. The court signed the decree this morning, Yelena, I said, picking up my briefcase. We are strangers now. I walked past her, my boots silent on the carpet, and stepped into the private elevator. As the doors closed, cutting off the sight of her kneeling on the floor, clutching the white marble urn in the quiet, golden room, I looked at my bare wrist. The ghostly ring of my old life was completely gone, and as the elevator descended into the bright, busy streets of the harbor, I let out a long, slow breath, and finally walked into the sun.